I want to talk to you today in what will probably be quite a short episode about a question I get asked a lot by private coaching clients that might help you if you're doing this work and you're working on yourself. And that is, when should you do the work? Like, in what state of mind should you be? I've had clients over the years who will say to me, I've been feeling fucked. I've been trying to do the work. You know, they'll come back to me every week, every fortnight, when we'll have a coaching session, and I'll say, what have you been doing? What work have you been doing? And they'll say to me, well, I've been feeling really fucked and I've been trying to do it, but it's just overwhelming me. It's making me feel worse. What should I do? And this is another area where I've developed my thinking over time with the help of clients, which is often the case. The language I've always used about this is, that resonates with me and makes sense with me, is being in the center. So when I feel centered, what I mean by that is when I feel at my best, effectively, like I'm the real version of me. I'm not off in my ego. I haven't got any of my multiple characters, personalities coming up and interfering with me. I'm not feeling insecure. I'm not feeling anxious. I'm not feeling angry. I'm just perfectly centered. I'm peaceful. I'm calm. That's what I mean by centered. So my answer to the general answer to the question, when should you do the work, is when you're feeling centered. That's when to do the heavy work. So the big exercises I give people to do that you can see in different places. That's when to do that work. So, for example, I do a really big multiple personality, multiple character exercise about the different parts of ourselves that are in operation in our subconscious that drive our lives without us realising it. It's huge. It's one of the big exercises I do with people that if I could only pick two exercises, I would pick that, and I would pick shadow work to give everyone in the world to do. Most people say it changes their life. But there's no point trying to do that work if you already feel fucked. So my advice has always been, you need to come back to center first. So if you're feeling off center, you need to come back to center before you try and do any heavy work. So there are techniques to do that then. So there's different, with all the stuff I do, there are different techniques and different tools to help you in different places. And you don't need to just use the stuff I teach. Obviously, there's stuff all over the internet that will help you with this stuff. But if you're off center, there are different things you can do to get back to center. We haven't got enough time to go into them all here. As I say, you can find them in different videos, different episodes of this podcast. You can definitely find them in my online course that you can access through my community if you want the lowest cost way of getting there. But things like, for example, meditation, breathing techniques, cold baths, cold showers, journaling, writing stuff down, getting stuff out of your head. This is really important. If stuff is spinning around in your head, you've got to get it out. If you just leave it spinning in your head and you haven't become an expert at dealing with the stuff yet, you've got to get it out of your head. So the best way to do that, I would say, if you've got no other way of doing it, is to write it down, pen on paper, not typing on a laptop. Pen on paper helps to get out of your head. If you have got access to a therapist or a coach, I would highly recommend talking out loud to people. That is brilliant, but only, and this is a controversial point sometimes because everyone loves banging on about mental health and it's best to speak to someone, and I always say that's absolutely bullshit. It's best to speak to somebody if the person you're speaking to knows how to hold what you're saying to them. In my experience, and again, going back to something I said in a previous episode, this is just my experience and other people can disagree as much as they want. That's fine. We all have our own experience of life. But in my experience, if you share the stuff that's going on in your head with the wrong person, it will make those problems worse, not better. Because what will happen is they will take your problems, they will make them into their problems, and then you'll be worried about their problems. I'm always thinking about my mum, my ex-partner, other people in my family about this. They weren't able to just absorb things and hold it. When you're speaking to a therapist or a coach, someone who is trained to do this, or if you're fortunate enough to have a family member or friend who can do this stuff, great, say it out loud to them, because they can hold it and they can listen and they can maybe give you some good feedback or advice if you need it. But otherwise, and unless you're desperate, that's the other caveat to this. The only other time where I say, when people are saying speak to anyone, it's better, is if you're desperate. If you feel like you're on the brink of suicide, you're really, really struggling and speaking to anyone would be better than nothing, then yes, of course, go ahead, speak to somebody, get it out, whatever you need, connection. But first and foremost, if you can speak to a qualified therapist or coach, do that. But as I say, failing that, pen on paper is an unbelievable way to get this stuff out of your head, because there's no judgment. You can always burn the paper afterwards if you've got to write stuff down that you don't want anyone else to read. But the thing that, when I mentioned working with a client and getting good feedback and learning a new way of describing this to people, is one of my private coaching clients came back to me at the beginning. He was talking about a red, amber, green system that he'd learned from somewhere else, which I really like, which is, instead of talking about being off center, if that doesn't work for you, think about the traffic light system. So when to do the heavy work, the personality work, the shadow work, all that sort of stuff, is if you're in green. So if your system is in green and you feel good, that's when to do that work. If you feel that you've gone into amber, or worse, you've gone into red, stop doing any big work and just focus on getting back. So if you're in red, if your system is going wild and you're off completely and you're in the red zone, your focus is on tools and techniques to get you into amber. And then once you're in amber, get tools and techniques to get you into green. Something that I didn't mention, which I should, which is something else I delved into about 6 months to a year ago, is vagus nerve exercises. Look them up on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. There's loads of people showing you how to do them. But vagus nerve exercises help you to calm your vagus nerve, which is basically a central nervous system. That can really help to get you back from red to amber to green. And once you've done that, once you're in green, once you're centered, that's when to do the heavy lifting again. That's basically it. There's not much more to tell you. I'd just be repeating myself. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, put a comment on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, send me an email, comment on social media, and I'll come back to you. If you want to join my free community, there's a link underneath this episode where you can join the free community. Inside that community, I answer questions. Once a month, I'll hold a video call where you can come and ask me questions, no charge. It's absolutely free. So if you want to do that, come in there. But I hope that helps as a little bit of a guide as to when you should be doing this work and when not to do it, even as importantly. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon.